Hello. Have you ever wondered what happens to your food and drink after you've eaten it? Ever wondered what comes next? Shall we find out? I'm going to take you through the whole digestive system. We're going to go from gum to bum and from chew to poo. And yes, I did just say bum and I did just say poo. I'm going to say all sorts of words like that. I'm going to say fart and wee and sick and diarrhoea. I'm going to talk about all those things. Some of those words are quite funny, aren't they? Here's the thing. My sessions are fun, but they're not silly, okay? So from this point on, we're not going to talk about poo. We're going to talk about faeces, because that's the scientific word for the brown smelly stuff that comes out your bum. So I'm going to finish my biscuit and my cup of tea, and then I'm going to take you on an amazing journey from food to faeces. So what's the first thing that you do when you want to eat some food? Well, you take a big bite, don't you? You take that big bite and your front teeth, your incisors, cut the food up into bite-sized pieces. After that, your back teeth, your molars, grind up the food and mush it up and crush it into soft, pulpy stuff. Something else goes on inside your mouth while you're chewing. There's not just your teeth crunching up and down. Your body makes saliva, your spit, and that helps to make the food softer. So it's easier to chew, it's easier to swallow. It makes it less sticky as well. Now, saliva is made in little glands in the back of your mouth. That's where my friend Nick here comes in. This is Nick, nearly headless Nick, about to be headless. Excuse me. There we go. So, in Nick, you can see these orangey bits here are Nick's salivary glands. So these are the bits that make the spit, the saliva. They're inside the back of your cheek there. They're also, turning Nick round, underneath the tongue there. So those orangey lumpy bits. And there's some smaller ones, a finger in the right place, right in the back of the mouth there. So that's what makes the saliva. Saliva also contains enzymes. Now, an enzyme is like chemical scissors. It cuts up big molecules into little molecules to make them easier for your body to absorb. And there's an enzyme, chemical scissors, in saliva that cuts up big starchy molecules into smaller sugary molecules. So now we've got a mouthful of chewed up squidgy widgy food. And next we swallow it down, a big long pipe that goes down, down, down into our stomach. Now, some children have tried to tell me that this pipe goes through your lungs. So again, I'm going to use Nick to show you where the big long pipe goes. It's called the oesophagus. Now, excuse me, Nick, because it's time to take clothes off, mate. Excuse us a minute. There we go. Here's Nick. Woohoo! So We've got Nick's ribs are here, and I'm going to take off the front of Nick's ribs, and that will show up the inside of Nick's lungs. Yeah. And the other side. Oh. So we've got the inside of Nick's lungs there, and we've got Nick's heart is here. If I take out Nick's heart, the orangey coloured pipe there, that's the oesophagus that's going all the way down from the back of the mouth all the way down into the stomach. So the food is swallowed down the esophagus into a big muscly bag that is your stomach. Now your stomach is made of lots and lots of layers of muscles, and some of the layers go this way so they can squeeze like this, and some of the layers of muscles go that way so they can squeeze like that. And there's loads of layers so that you can squidge and squeeze and squidge and squoze all of the food inside there. And while it's squidging and squeezing it, there's more stuff gets added in. There's another set of enzymes goes in, those chemical scissors to cut up the big molecules into little ones. There's enzymes that cut up protein molecules into smaller ones. And there's also some acid added in. And stomach acid helps to break down the food. It also helps to kill any germs that might have gone in there. Now, of course, if there's something wrong with your food, your body's very smart, and your body will get rid of it. And your body gets rid of it by squeezing all those muscles all at once, so that the food that's all churned up gets forced up through the esophagus and up out of your mouth. And that's what vomiting is, being sick. It's very sensible, actually, your body getting rid of food that it doesn't want to stop you getting even sicker. It's the acid in the stomach that makes being sick taste so horrible. Makes you have that horrible burny sensation in the back of your mouth or even in the back of your nose. But you know what? Your body is so smart. Your body makes extra saliva to wash away that stomach acid, to protect your mouth and your teeth. You may have noticed that. If you are feeling unwell and feeling like you're going to be sick, you might notice your mouth suddenly fills up with saliva. So you're actually your body being really, really cool and protecting you. But we're not going to be sick. Everything's absolutely fine. The churned up, partially digested food is now called chyme. Chyme, C-H-Y-M-E. And your stomach, after between 3 and 4 hours, as long as that after a full meal, will gradually start to release the chyme into this bit, the top of your small intestines. Now, your small intestines are so called because they are quite narrow. They're only about that wide, as you can see, but they are really, really long. There's about 6 meters of pipe coiled up here in an adult. 6 meters. That's probably the width of your classroom. Perhaps you could check it. So the food, the chyme, gets released into the top of the small intestine, and an awful lot happens in a very short space of time. The very top of the small intestine is called the duodenum. The duodenum. Lots of new words in this session, haven't I? And the duodenum, I'm just going to move this piece out of the way. Oh. Sorry, Nick. I'd never be a surgeon, would I? There we go. Just going to move that piece out of the way. The top of the small intestine here, the duodenum, I say, is where a lot happens in a small space of time. We have this amazing organ. It's called the liver. Liver is the biggest organ inside your body. and it makes something called bile. Now bile, the greenish liquid that's stored in a little bag here called the gall bladder. Bile helps fats to mix with water. If you've ever tried mixing oil and water, you'll know it doesn't work. So the fats and oils that you've eaten can't be got at by the enzymes, those chemical scissors that cut up the big molecules. So bile helps fats and oils to mix with water. And that gets released into the chyme in the duodenum. Also, we've got another organ in here. This one here, which doesn't come out separately on this model. This one is called the pancreas. The pancreas has lots of different jobs to do. Actually, so does the liver. Liver has lots of jobs to do as well, but pancreas has several jobs to do, one of which is to make loads of different enzymes. It makes enzymes that break up fats and proteins and sugars and carbohydrates. And it also releases its enzymes into the top of the duodenum here, so that as the food passes through the small intestine, it's being broken down into smaller and smaller molecules as it gets squeezed along. So, as you squeeze all the food, the chyme, with all of its enzymes in it, along through the small intestine, the nutrients that are in the food, all the goodness, the vitamins, the minerals, and now the little molecules that we've got, get absorbed into your blood, so they get taken all around your body. Now, how that happens is really, really cool. The inside of your small intestines is actually not smooth. It's all wiggly. Looks a bit like one of these cleaning mitts on the inside. If you could look at your small intestine down a microscope, you would see these little finger-like projections, and they're called villi. One villus, many villi. It's Latin. And what happens is your blood flows up one side and down the other side, inside these little villi. So your blood doesn't mix with the food at all, but the food, the chyme, gets squeezed in between it all. So there's lots and lots of surface area here for all the goodness to be absorbed into your blood inside these tiny, tiny villi, too small to see. And then the goodness all gets taken off all around your body. So having got the goodness and the nutrients out of the food, the waste food now passes into the large intestine. It goes past a little extra dead end first, tucked away right down here. This little thing about the size and shape of your little finger, called the appendix. Now, our appendix, we're not entirely sure why we still have it. There's lots of theories. It's related to digesting plant materials. Early on in our evolution, when our ancestors ate a lot more plants than we did, they might have had a larger organ there to help digest plants. And certainly animals like rabbits and horses and cows, they have all sorts of extra chambers. They don't have a single stomach bag like we do and then straight into the intestines. They have other chambers to help to digest plants. So it could be left over from that. Could also be where the good gut bacteria live. Now, you might be a bit surprised to hear that there are good bacteria, but there are. There are bacteria that live in our intestines that help us to break down food and also help to keep us healthy in many other ways. So scientists think that the appendix might be where the good bacteria are. But you may have heard of the appendix because it can go wrong. It can get blocked up. The end of that little dead end thing can get blocked up. And then people have to have their appendix taken out. It's called an appendectomy. Have it taken out. You can function quite happily without it. But that's at the very start of the large intestine here. Now, as the waste food gets passed along the large intestine here, and the water gets absorbed out of it, and the good gut bacteria are in there doing their job, one of the byproducts of the work of the good gut bacteria is they make gases. Yep, I did say I'd talk about farts. So yeah, farts, flatulence is its scientific word. Flatulence is caused by the gases made by the good bacteria that are in your intestines here, helping you to break down the food. If you burp, that comes from from gases that you've swallowed in with your food, like in fizzy drinks or just within the mouthful of chewing. But if it's flatulence, it's coming from the bacteria that are in here. So as the food passes along, it gets drier as the water gets absorbed. So if there's something wrong with the food, your body's really smart again, and it will try to get rid of it quicker. And it will do that by passing the food along faster. Of course, if that happens, then there's less time for water to be absorbed from the food, which means that what comes out at the end is waterier and wet. So that can be a cause of diarrhoea. And of course, the opposite can happen too. If something happens to make the food pass more slowly along the large intestine, perhaps you've been unwell and it slowed things down because you haven't eaten much, or perhaps there's not enough fruit and veg in your diet because the fibre from fruit and veg keeps things moving. But if anything's happened to slow things down, then the waste food gets drier and drier and harder and harder, and then it's really uncomfortable to go to the toilet, and then you don't want to, and then you hold it in for longer, and then it gets even drier and even harder. And do you know what? This is really, really common, especially in children, and nobody talks about it except me and Nick here. Well, Nick doesn't talk, Nick's quiet, but nobody talks about it. It's really, really common. If you have got yourself uncomfortable and a bit bunged up, do please tell an adult, because there's all sorts of nice medicines that can be taken to help soften things up and get things moving again. Okay? Don't suffer in silence. Our journey's nearly done. Our journey's nearly done. The waste food has passed all the way through our large intestine, and the water has been absorbed. And then finally it packs together in the last bit of the intestine, just down there. The final part's called the rectum. And that gradually fills up with the waste food, and the rectum packs it all together and forms it into faeces. Remember that word? Faeces. And it's the rectum that sends that signal to your brain. It makes you go, oh, need to go. You stick your hand up and you go, can I go to the toilet? And your teacher says, can you wait till break time? And you, no, I need to go now. Off you go. And off you go to the toilet. You sit yourself down on the toilet, and then the very, very last bit of the digestive system, and it's actually a bit that's not on the model of Nick. There's a ring of muscle that holds everything tight closed, and you sit yourself down on the toilet, and that ring of muscle relaxes. It's called the anus. That is the scientific word for the hole in your bum. And the anus relaxes and opens, and then the muscles of the rectum squeeze out the faeces. Hang on a minute, I hear you cry. That was all about faeces or poo. What about wee? Where does your wee come from? Does that come straight from what you've been drinking? Well, actually, no, it doesn't. Your urine, the scientific word for wee, urine is made by a slightly separate system. So remember I said that all of the goodness and all the nutrients and all the water all gets carried off around your body by your blood vessels. So your blood, represented by these big red and blue arteries and veins here, your blood's not really blue, but that's a whole separate lesson. Okay, so all of that gets carried off all around your body. These bits here are your kidneys. Now, one of the jobs of your kidneys is to filter out your blood. Inside your kidneys, there's these tiny, tiny little filters, these cells that will take out the waste that's come from the rest of your body and also the extra water. And that goes down these pipes here and into this bag down here. Tipping it forward, you might see that better. Big bag down there, and that's your bladder. So it's a separate system from your digestion. Okay, so the water and the nutrients still come from your food, but they get carried off around your blood and filtered inside your kidneys. Okay. Now, I wonder if there's any biscuits left.